brief. Today, we are going to share with you some of the hot topics that are trending in our industry so that you are on top of what is happening. The first conversation I want us to address
You covered
is
both, top and brief, right in
that's
that whole sentence.
right.
That's really good.
Well, the first topic that I think we should brief on is talking a little bit about made in America with the conversation that's trending on the tariffs, the on again, off again, and the goal of some of those tariffs being, hey, let's bring it back to America. For a long time, we've been talking about the challenges that exist with doing that. We have an excellent case study to share as right now Louis Vuitton has been in the news with information on its underperforming Texas factory.
Yeah, agreed.
So this is a pretty interesting case study. In 2019, they invested around $30 million to build the plant.
Which is the cost of one bag today, I think. So it wasn't a huge investment for Louis Vuitton.
They also got about 75% property tax cuts, which equates to about $20 million in savings. So all in all, we're almost looking at $30 million or $60 million of an investment to get this up and going. No small investment.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that Louis Vuitton reported with this Texas factory?
It's the typical challenges that we've talked about with bringing at least apparel back to the U.S. Today, the U.S. produces about 1% of our all apparel made in the world. There's reasons for that. We kind of abdicated in the 80s. And our labor cost is expensive. We don't have skilled workers. We don't have a workforce that wants to work in a line all day. We do have factory workers that work in lines, but the more successful operations are the ones that are automated, that have robotic assistants, that speed up those productions. And Louis Vuitton has been reporting 40% wastage on leather goods, low productivity. Wow. They had plans for 1,000 workers. They've only got 300. It's really been
so quality challenges too.
And quality challenges. And so, if it's a non-profitable situation for Louis Vuitton, knowing that Louis Vuitton is at the upper end of that, that retail, like you
if
think,
they can't
hey,
make it work,
I can bring it back to the US if there's an expensive MSRP associated with it. But when you look at this one case example, it drives the point home that, look, when price is even no object, it's challenging. And so, while it would be fantastic to be look at onshoring, it must be done with technology. Because, the funny thing about the Chinese memes that were sent in with Bubba on the sewing line trying to figure it out.
chunk, chunk,
yeah,
chunk.
chunk. And
chunk, chunk,
it's
chunk.
funny, most people, when they look at that video, they just see the images of the people working and kind of get the point. With the Chinese music going in the background and everything. Being in factories for many, many years, one of the things that I was told from a fantastic production guy years ago is he says, you can know the success of a factory before you even go in and see the factory. You can hear it.
Right.
And if you hear a constant whir of machines, just whoa,
it's
that
efficient.
The factory's efficient. It's going really well. The first thing that hit me because of so many years wasn't the fact that you saw these funny guys on the sewing machine with big fat fingers trying to figure out how to sew goods. It was very effective. Was you heard the chunk, chunk, chunk.
Yes.
You heard that this production was going really, really, really slow. That would be like this F-rated factory. So they were all the way down to the sound, very, very efficient in that meme. Therefore, that's the challenge that you look in made in the US, especially in apparel. There is opportunity, but as you see here, massive investment. You have to build a complete supply chain, and you have to hire technicians that manage machines to sew. Yeah. Because the whole theory about putting Americans on sewing lines, it's just not going to work. We're already struggling with putting Americans in fast food operations, managing the employment levels there. This is sewing lines. This isn't a reality.
Which is a skill set.
It's a skill set, and it's a very repetitive, mundane task that other nations have picked up and do very well. It takes two hands to sew a machine, so it's going to be very hard to watch TikTok in one hand and try to sew in the other, which is what so many Americans like doing. So I think that it really drives home the challenges of Made in America on a large scale.
Right.
Today.
Uh, Great new groundbreaking or sky breaking event happened yesterday when women took flight. Blue Origin space flight took off. It was an all women crew: Lauren Sanchez, Katy Perry, Gail King, Amanda Wynn, Aisha Bowe, Carrie Ann Flynn. Um, all on this incredible flight.
That was really emotional.
It
I mean,
was.
there are critics, saying, "Oh my God, they probably spent millions of dollars for a ticket on a 10-minute ride or whatever it was." It was a quick ride, but I got to tell you, on my side, it really brought emotion because the fact that even this path going down where people can take a ride and go to space today is an exciting thing. And then to see an all women crew was awesome.
Yes.
It just felt really, really positive.
So let's bring this home to our industry. Let's talk about their clothes.
Of course, right? Yeah.
I understand that this was a collaboration between the fiance of
Lauren Sanchez.
yes,
Yeah.
of help me with the name, Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
Yes.
That guy.
Just that billionaire.
Just that multi-billionaire. Yeah.
Between him
And Mons.
and Mons.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what you know about the construction of these suits and how they went about developing them.
Well, one, they were super stylish. They looked pretty fantastic. They looked like, how you expect the future of spacewear to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of these big clunky things with a aquarium on top. They looked
right.
really pretty great coming in and out. And they were brightly colored, looked really well. I give kudos to both of those that, designed the suits. They were made from fire retardant neoprene. Neoprene we usually wear in scuba gear. We don't need fire retardant neoprene when you're swimming in the ocean, right? So by water. But they've kind of adapted this for space flight and form fitting, very, very stylish. They had, kind of heat embossed logoing.
Mm-hmm.
It was well executed.
Yeah, to ensure a good fit, didn't they do whole body scans of each astronaut as well?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
to
again,
customize
it's
that?
all this stuff that's going on for the future of apparel, and I
Mhm.
think I don't know, it really added to the excitement of watching that event. And congratulations that they went up and came down successfully. Some of the other ships that have gone up haven't been so successful. So there's a lot of bravery and courage with those, because it's still
Mhm.
a question mark. There's still an element of danger for
Oh, for sure.
going into space, and we've seen things go wrong with a number of the ships currently. The one group of astronauts was stranded up for
A
6 or 9 months or
long
something
time,
like that. And so, kudos to the courage of that team. And I don't know, I think it was a great event. It was super cool.
It was very exciting. So speaking of women breaking new barriers, there's a barrier that I'm not sure that women want to be breaking right now with the tariff challenges. Women-owned businesses are reporting even greater losses than the rest of us out there. Can you help me understand why is it that women's owned businesses are struggling even more so?
Well, women's wear is a big part
Not
of
women's wear,
our
women's
industry.
owned,
Yeah,
right?
women owned, but
Yeah.
women's wear categories in general are a big part of our industry. But this part of the industry, sometimes the margins are smaller. They're working on tighter margins. A lot of these groups have focused opportunities, like even for startups that we're working with. The benefit that China provides us is that the manufacturing units are close to the mills. You can do smaller quantities. They're built to support these industries. And there's not a lot of other nations out there that will build smaller quantities. Women's business are smaller quantities, more units, faster turn. And so if you throw these massive tariffs on a country like China, this category is particularly hard hit.
Okay. So you're saying that women-owned businesses in this industry are more focused on women's wear, which makes sense. And those typically run on tighter margins.
And smaller quantities.
Would you also say that, although there are incentives in the United States for companies to do business with women-owned businesses, that might not necessarily be the case on a global scale?
Yeah, I wouldn't paint every country differently, but societies do, exist differently. with respect to men's and women's rights around the
Mhm.
world. And so there have been some that have said, hey, we work at a disadvantage in some countries. But I would tell you, I think a predominance of the challenge that I would see is that we always talk that not every country does everything well.
Mhm.
And, as we've said in previous things, China does over 25% of the production coming into the US in apparel. All these other nations you add together equal 25%. These other nations are built for larger quantities, less challenging product, and women's wear is product that is more complicated. They run smaller quantities, and when you eliminate China there, you have a challenge.
Mhm. Right. Well, one of the things that we always advocate for, and we've talked a little bit about it right now, technology. It's technology and fashion are becoming more and more interwoven. We've always been of the belief of being very tech minded. And it sounds like somebody's knocking on our door.
Yes.
We'll be there in just a second. Um, we're seeing a lot of conversations trending right now on AI driven technology in our space and its benefits to sustainability. Let's talk a little bit about that, Brett.
Well, what we're seeing is, sustainability taking a lot of different evolutions, right? People are talking about fast fashion versus slow fashion, how AI is kind of sorting things out. And one of the things in one of the forums that we were in was the challenge of multiple points of distribution and higher levels of inventory that end up in landfills. AI is helping streamline and understanding what demand looks like so they're not going down the path of overproduction. The real key here is having a more intelligent supply chain, understanding how many units you're going to go through, minimizing the impact of overproduction. And AI is playing a lot of roles in that because it can digest a lot more information than traditional methods. It can give you forecasts, it can give you information pulling from a lot of different data points. And I think that that's going to be a continuing benefit of AI in our space.
Absolutely. Well, let's wrap this conversation up with something on the sexier side of the business. Fashion Week.
I don't know. That spacesuit looks pretty
That's
sexy.
true.
I tell you, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we last week was Milan's Fashion Week, and they. I really love the overarching theme of that event. It was really about connecting worlds, and in this time where we've got some efforts for countries to kind of pull apart a little bit and be more internally motivated. It's nice to see Italy, putting down the runway. This theme of let's connect our worlds together. What are some of your thoughts about what we saw
Yeah,
this
in
week?
general, they're talking about connected by a number of different things. Artisans coming with natural fibers, combining that with technology. Gucci launched kind of a bamboo collection. Prada, had a whole symposium talking about climate justice and things like that. And it was, each different group. Saint Laurent talked about, archival furniture, and
Mhm.
there were all these different elements brought together, I think, in a very holistic
Yeah,
way.
the Weve really featuring heritage techniques and craftsmanship, really connecting that artisanal and artist touch.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. And I think, um, it, the Italians and the shows in Italy always have this kind of elevated presence and holistic kind of view on things. And I think it was another successful week in Milan.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights. Thank you for joining us during this clothing brief. Don't forget, we will be back here every Tuesday at noon, so we will see you next week. I might not be here. I unfortunately have jury duty, so we'll see who we have sit in to be your partner on this conversation next week. Wish me luck on jury duty.
Yes.
And do not forget to subscribe to Clothing Culture Podcast so you can stay apprised of upcoming episodes. New season coming soon.